So,
Now for ficar.
okay, cool.
Wait, nasal. No.
No,
No, won't
no,
ficar.
mm,
No.
no.
No. No.
What's going on, Eurovoxers? Hola, Dominic.
Hola, Stuart.
I promise it won't be as Portuguese heavy as last year, because you joined me last year when we discussed the songs, the 8 songs that were up for Festival da Canção, the final. And this year we've got 10 brand new songs. Any of them could be representing Portugal at Eurovision this year. So let's talk about who could be winning this election. So we've got 10 songs here, and we're going to be discussing all of them. So we won't spend too much time, dwelling on things. But first, I just want to ask you, Dominic, for people who, maybe are not as keen on this selection, we know that it is quite different from some of the other ones that we see. It's kind of like, I would see it as almost the antithesis to something like Melfest, which is something that I like, but, a different feeling. So tell me about what you like about Festival da Canção.
Yeah, you probably have said it already. So it's very different from the rest. It has a slow approach, I would say. So as a comparison, like Melfest is really like, okay, 10 minutes to vote and that's it, and you're out and done. And Portugal really takes its time. Also, it's famous for being a long show and a late one caused by the time difference. So for me as a German, it starts at 10. Normally, selections end at that time, and then it goes on until 1 a.m. So it's a very long show in general. And they're also taking time for interviews, which is pretty cool, because it feels like they're appreciating every artist, no matter whether they get to the final or not. So that's pretty cool. It can be like a way to introduce themselves to the Portuguese public. So they also give opportunities for newcomers. And even though a lot of them are in Portuguese, they have a big variety. You have a lot of ballads, that's for sure, but there are also so many other songs in the running in general. So really appreciate the variety.
And a lot of the things that you touched upon about like the length, we had a number of comments from the video that we did over the weekends after semifinal 2, and we want to thank everybody who provided us with that context, because it does really help. And yeah, it has a very different sensibility, and I would say that anybody who saw the 2018 show for Eurovision knows how the Portuguese have a different approach to these types of shows. And I think you pretty much mentioned all of the things that I really enjoy about it. So let's get into some of these entries. And the very first one that we're going to start with is Karetus, or let me say that again, Karetus and Romeu. Their song is called Saudade. So there we have our first song, which was performed in the first semifinal, and one that I would say is quite distinct in the way that it sounds. It's definitely got a Portuguese feel to it. Tell me how you feel about it.
Yeah, it has a mixture which I really enjoy in general. So it has traditional vibes with the guitar. It sounds pretty, not particularly like Portugal, but Southern Europe. So you could also maybe argue it sounds Greek or maybe like Spanish. And I like that the mix with techno vibes, like techno beat, electronic kind of music, and I think it blends together very well. I really appreciate it. I think it's exciting. I like his voice because it's also very traditional and could be sung in the 70s, but the modern twist is making it interesting. So yeah, about the semi-final performance, I loved the staging. The cube was very interesting and memorable, and I remember the backing dancers. They had a very interesting look. I remember that they had a mask like Norway 2017, like yours.
Yeah.
This electronic mask, which is cool, and maybe some like, do you know the ones in China when they're having these kind of marches? With the
Yeah,
dragons?
like for Chinese New Year. Yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of reminded me of that, and that was so cool. I really appreciated that.
Yeah, there's a very clear intention here to do something visual, which is great. And, if there's one take, like, kind of discounting factor from the Portuguese selection, is that we don't always see that thought out as much. And when it comes to Eurovision, that's pretty important. But this one, it's definitely one of the strongest visually. And you mentioned a lot of things, the cube, the dancers who, the head to toe outfit that they have is a traditional thing to Portugal. Of course, not the LED masks, but it is a
Who
really
knows?
great. Yeah, maybe they were really ahead of their time. But
Yeah.
it's a great touch, I would say. And yeah, about the music, everything you said, I agree with as well. It's the song, when you strip away the production of it, it has a bit of a timeless quality to it. But with the production, it brings us into the 21st century. So very, very solid. Probably my favorite overall. The main criticism with the performance, which we saw other people mention, was the energy. A lot of people said that it didn't feel like the song had the energy that it needed. And I do agree with that. I also say that it is a bit of a challenge because it's not a party song. It has elements of as you said, it's got that kind of dance beat to it. So it's something that you can definitely dance to, but there is also like a darkness and a feeling of longing. And I've heard lots of people from Portuguese speaking countries talk about the significance of saudade, or as my Brazilian Portuguese has taught me, saudade. And how it's such a difficult word to translate because it means more than just nostalgia or longing. It's a really, really deep feeling. And if you say saudade or saudade to someone, it's you say that to the people who you love and care for the most. So I wouldn't say that it's all the way there in terms of being ready for Eurovision, but there is a lot of promise here, and it would definitely be one of my personal choices. I don't know. I think we've both kind of covered a lot about it. Is there any other thoughts about this?
Yeah, maybe you could argue like he's in the final, so he has room to elevate the performance.
Yes.
Um, and I think he has potential to win this. Honestly, I would consider him as one of the favorites.
Me too. And when I've seen some of the polls, which obviously we have to consider that this is according to the Eurovision community, so it doesn't always necessarily reflect what the local people feel. But Saudade is a song that tends to be towards the top, and if not, probably in second place. But let's get to the other one who either occupies that top spot or that second place spot. This is NEEV, and his song is in English, so I'll let you say the title.
Yeah, okay, let me try. It's Dancing in the Stars.
Very good. Excellent. Who's point for your English? Let's hear it.
Now you're dancing in the stars above us, and I'm still here singing for you.
So there we go. I think the very first thing to mention here is that it's rare for us to see music sung completely in English. Of course, there is another song in the final that also has that as well. But talking about Portugal and the history of their contributions to Eurovision, we actually haven't seen a song completely in English at all.
Yes, indeed. So there were only a few lines in English sometimes, and also Portugal had some French lines and Spanish. But Portuguese has always been a part of every single song they contributed to the contest.
Mhm. So now tell me about this song and your impressions of it.
Yeah, so as you've said, like, ooh, an English song. That's so interesting in general because, like, I remember last year there wasn't any song in English. Maybe like one line again, and that's it.
Well,
Um,
there was I can't remember the name of the band, but it was Rebellion. It was
Yeah, I'm talking
uh,
about the final. Yeah, but
yeah,
true.
that's right,
You
in
told
the
me
final.
yesterday. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Um, so I remember that Jimmy was the only one with "I'm so blessed," and that's it. That's
yeah,
the only
yeah.
English you heard.
Mhm.
Um, it's it's really good. That's for sure. His voice is suiting the song because it shows some vulnerability. I like the staging, even though it heavily reminded me of Arcade. Like first thing I saw was like, okay, Arcade plus a candle. That's it. Yeah. It kind of sounds familiar though. I said it yesterday, and I'm not sh scared to say it again. It kind of sounds like Perfect from Ed Sheeran, I
Mhm.
think. but it's not too similar in terms of like plagiarism. I wouldn't say that, but there are some lines where I'm like, okay, you could sing along from the very first time.
Mhm.
But in general, I really like it, and I would like to see this kind of song from Portugal just to fresh it up. I know English isn't that exciting, but considering that it's Portugal, it would be something exciting. And
Mhm.
then you could see like, well, let's see how an English song would actually go for Portugal, because I think there's some criticism, but also like praise for Portugal, like, oh, they're always sticking to the language. But then you always have the problem, like, well, no one understands you. And then it would be like, well, try it at least once, and if it's not working, then go back to Portugal or to Portuguese, you know? So
Mhm.
yeah, I like that approach. Um, it also reminded me of, I can't remember the exact name, but Norway in the 2000s, there was one guy with the piano. What was his name? I can't remember, but he had the same approach. So it's nothing new at all. Like the singing at the piano, being vulnerable, being like, yeah. But he did it. He does it very well,
Mhm.
and it caught my attention for sure. So I think he has a shot. I'm not sure about, again, the language is a bit thing. I'm not sure if the public in Portugal is ready for this after like 54, it's the 54th edition,
Mhm.
and I'm not sure if they are ready for it yet, because I think I have read a comment like, okay, there's a big, yeah, not like, don't want to say hate, but it's like that we want to stick to Portuguese at all costs. It doesn't matter if the song is like great or not, but there's a big like attitude, like we don't want to sing anything else in
Yeah,
terms of language. Yeah, so you know what I mean,
it
like,
Yeah,
yeah,
it seems like people really want to uphold that tradition because it's something that gives them
exactly.
some pride. But touching on that, it does seem like this song is getting a considerable amount of attention from the Portuguese audience because looking at the comments of both the performance and the lyric video, many of them were in Portuguese, and there has been a considerable amount of praise. And what the comment that you're talking about that was on our video, I think what they were addressing was the fact that it tends to be the older audience that it feels more strongly about sending songs that are in Portuguese rather than the younger audience. And part of the retooling of Festival da Canção was to make it more appealing to younger composers, younger performers. So it is definitely a question. To address some of the things that you said about like the song itself, it's very tender. He sings it very well, lyrically very sweet. I have to kind of take a little bit of an issue with the Duncan Lawrence comparisons because it's not like he invented sitting down at a piano,
Yeah, the thing is, it has been like the last contest we have seen.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
of course you draw this comparison, because if Duncan would have been like 5 years ago, you wouldn't even notice, but now you do.
Fair enough. Yeah, the song's still fresh in people's mind. It's also getting a little bit of a victory lap in terms of popularity, charting in Canada, by the way.
Hashtag
But
TikTok.
nonetheless, well, yes, exactly, because of
Yeah.
TikTok. But nonetheless, with respect to NEEV, I think it's really solid. Yeah, because it's not necessarily like reinventing the wheel. That's really my reservation about this being the choice for Eurovision. But I respect it a ton. I see the appeal, and I think that I could definitely be more on board with it if there was something changed up in maybe the instrumentation. So maybe like this would benefit from a revamp. I say that very lightly because I know that sometimes revamps end up doing the opposite. But
Yeah.
it
Yeah. And they also only have like a week after, because the deadline is like 14th of March. And
but that's not necessarily the deadline for revamps. It's more like the
okay.
choosing the song itself. As far as I know, I mean, I might have this totally wrong,
Yeah,
but
okay.
there have been examples of when we didn't actually hear what the revamp sounded like until the night of, and I'm thinking of France 2019.
Ye-
So I take your point. Like, obviously, you don't have that much time, but
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
the thing is, you can submit something, but you don't necessarily have to release it straight away.
exactly.
But I doubt, yeah, it makes sense. I doubt that it's March 14th or something.
Mhm.
But I don't think that they can extend the revamp until May. So they have to
Right.
hurry a bit, I would say. Yeah.
Right. Fair enough. But anyway, I do see this as a contender, and I think there's been a lot that we've both said about the things that make it work. But kind of going back to traditional Portuguese music, I don't think it really gets more traditional than this one. And it's very interesting because Valéria has seen the Saudade of Karetus and Romeu and raised it to na mais profunda saudade, which means the of the deepest longing, sorrow, of the deepest nostalgia. So let's hear it.
Tens olhar de ternura, senhora dona do fado. Tens olhar de ternura, senhora dona do fado.
So here we have something that is distinctly Portuguese, straight up fado. Dominic, what do you think of it?
Yeah, traditional sums it up perfectly. So she could have sent this in the 1970s easily, or 60s even. It has a very, I would even say, nostalgic sound. It's pretty distinctive for Portugal, or maybe again like the Southern European region, I would say. The first thing which was pretty memorable is like her vocal. Her vocal is impressive, especially like she can hit very long notes. I was pretty impressed by that. I like the progression of the song, so it's not staying on the same level. What else? I like her dress in the semifinal. That was cool. And cute. Yeah, that's about it. So I appreciate it. Again, it wouldn't be that surprising. Portugal is like known for sending these kind of songs, so maybe it would be time for something else. But I can see the appeal of it.
Like I take your point. Since the kind of revamping of Festival da Canção, I mean, obviously the very first song to come out of that was Salvador Sobral, Amar pelos dois, which obviously is so legendary for placing, giving Portugal a real moment in Eurovision history. So I don't necessarily think that this is like typical of Portugal to send to Eurovision, because what we saw before that was not really this, but it's certainly in terms of representing Portugal as a nation, Portugal, of their musical history, then yes. And I think that that's probably the kind of obvious criticism for people, which is just that it's not something that brings us into the 21st century, like Saudade, just the regular Saudade, not the mais profunda Saudade. But I mean, like, credit where credit's due. This is beautiful, and we often talk about making it visually engaging and having the staging thought out, and this doesn't really need it. It's like she occupies your attention the entire time, and you're just so drawn into the performance by her voice alone, and you feel it. I don't know. I'm also trying to think of how the jury voted last year, and they voted like overwhelmingly in favor of Filipe Sambado, who had a very kind of traditional sounding song. It was quite avant-garde, and I could see somewhat with my kind of base level knowledge, I could see them really praising this one, and also thinking about like the older public when we're talking about this battle of do we send English or not, then this could be like their response to that if they see sending an English language song as a threat. But yeah, I mean, the takeaway is that it is so characteristically Portuguese,
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I do think that overall this is a great song, but that's just Festival da Canção. They have many great songs. The ones that fit best into Eurovision are not always the obvious ones. But I mean, we also see France this year doing something that is very characteristically French. So maybe Portugal can do the same as well. So it seems that not even Portugal is immune to this 80s revival that we've been seeing across the board in other selections. This is Pedro Gonçalves, and his song is called
Não vou ficar.
Muito bom. Let's hear it.
Porque eu não vou ficar madrugada a voltar para ti. Eu nem quero acreditar. Os medos que levaste de mim voltam ao vê-lo tocar. Como nunca te senti, como é que olhas para mim?
So there we have that 80s synth pop fix that so many people crave. Tell me, Dominic, how do you feel about this one?
I like it. It gives variety again to the contest. It's very retro style. It's like 80s. It's with a saxophone guy, which is always a plus. Like, come on. Um, I like his style. I like the attitude. They're just easygoing. They don't take themselves too seriously, which is nice to see. And especially when you have quite a lot of ballads in the running, these kind of songs are pretty uplifting and like nice to see them. Um, about their winning chances, I'm not that sure if they're ready for this. I might see them come back in the future with a different song, but I think it's a decent entry, and I wouldn't be mad at all if this is going to be sent to Rotterdam. So good job.
Yeah, and I think the fact that it's tapping into that 80s revival, as we mentioned, excuse me, I think that is actually, you know, something that could work for it in terms of having cross-cultural appeal, despite being in Portuguese, which, you know, we've already kind of talked about as one of the hurdles for Portugal. And, you know, it's got a laid-back feeling. The hook is pretty memorable, I would say. It's, you know, something that is definitely in my head. And yeah, the sax break, you know, who doesn't love a little bit of saxophone, I would say. And you mentioned their presence on stage. I like the fact that they're having fun. It does feel a little bit silly to me, that, you know, like just
Okay.
the way that they're kind of like looking into the camera, and how many of them have like shades, because like they're definitely going for this kind of 80s aesthetic. It just doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't land as well with me, but I do like the fact that they're having a good time rather than being like, you know, deadpan and serious. But I don't know. It was a little bit of a takeaway for me. But it sounds like you actually like that aspect.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised that they actually advanced because I think like these kind of songs are pretty have a hard standing in Festival da Canção. So when you see the non-qualifiers this year, there are a lot of uplifting songs which were eliminated.
Mhm.
For example, like Ariana, just the next example, because it also goes into the direction of being not a ballad.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was happy to see them qualifying, really.
I do actually see this as a potential contender, but considering all of the other factors that we've talked about with the heavy favorites, it is really going to be a matter of, you know, how people respond to it. But overall, I would say they're doing a pretty good job. And now let's move on to something that is definitely very different from what Pedro's bringing. Probably one of the most stripped back, if not the most stripped back performance. This is Fábia Maia, and her song is called, do you have it?
Dia Lindo.
Yeah, lindo.
Que dia lindo pra dizer que tudo tem a sua forma de ser, que nada vai e volta a ti sem querer.
So speaking of ballads, here we've got something that's definitely a straight up ballad. Dominic, are you liking this one?
It's okay. Not my favorite at any means. I like that she's really feeling the song, so you can't really deny that. I noticed that she has her eyes closed for quite a long time, which is a sign that you're really, really into this song. I think her voice sounds very mature, even though she seems to be pretty young still. So that was very distinctive. I must say it's pretty monotone in my opinion, so I miss some peaks and progression, to be honest. Yeah, so I don't see it winning personally, but who knows what's gonna happen? I mean, it's Portugal, so
Yeah,
yeah.
you know, it's certainly very understated, and that is often one of the things that, you know, doesn't necessarily make it a fan favorite, and for that reason, I'm not really surprised. But you know, personally, I find it really gorgeous, like very emotional. Probably out of the other ballads here, one that really kind of has that striking emotional quality, which I would say that some of the other ones, they're certainly good in their own right, but comparing them, this one I think is quite significantly ahead. So yeah, I mean, I take your point. Probably not necessarily a winner. One that I just really like, and I definitely want to see a young performer get recognized. So, you know, let's hope that she gets a nice score at least. Certainly a very respectable entry, and I don't know. I wish the best of luck to her. So now moving on to something that is definitely, you know, tapping into some of the stuff that we saw with Saudade, bringing in a little bit of a beat, but also having that kind of essence of a strong composition. This is EU.CLIDES, and his song is called VOLTE-FACE.
Num volte-face, diz por disfarce, e num impasse ganho a moral, bem que é mau. Oh, oh.
All right, so we've got something that's giving us a little bit of an R&B flavor, I would say. Dominic, how do you feel about it?
I love the song. It's very cool. I like the instrumental because it's in a way chilled back, or not that up tempo, but chilling. Not a ballad, but chilling. But there's also a lot going on. So it's a very interesting mixture. I really appreciate that. I like his singing. His voice is good. As I've said yesterday, the stage presence is a bit like meh, because he was just sitting there, at least for the semi-final performance. Maybe he has something special for the final. We will see. If so, I think he's a contender to win this. I think this could make it to the final at Eurovision. I think it has great potential, and yeah, we will see how it goes.
Yeah, I have to say, this is, performance aside, because of the fact that he was sitting down, this would definitely be up there with the favorites based on the song alone, and really the performance, because he sings it very elegantly. And we talked about the possibility that there might be a reason why he's limited to sitting down. We don't obviously know why exactly, but yeah, as a viewer without that context, it does leave you kind of wanting a little bit more movement. And if it can't be from him, then it should be from something else, whether it's camera movements. I mean, I don't think it necessarily has to have dancers, but obviously that's one kind of go-to for providing movement. So yeah, that's really kind of the biggest takeaway. But again, I would put it up there with the favorites to win. And if we do see something that really brings the staging alive, then I would say, definitely send him to Rotterdam, because I would agree with you in the sense that this could definitely find a nice place for itself in the final. But moving on to another song, again, there are a fair amount of ballads in here. This one is by Carolina Deslandes, and her song is called Triz.
Que faça tudo quanto eu fiz, que queira tanto ser feliz. Fomos quase tudo, foi por triz.
So there we've got Carolina's song. Dominic, how do you feel about it?
I'm probably not the target group for this kind of song, so I personally think it's quite monotone / bowing, in my opinion. But there seems to be an audience for it, obviously, because it's in the final. And the reception was quite positive in general. So I seem to be in the minority for this, which is fine. I have to say and agree that she has a good voice. I like her style. She has a haircut like Sia, I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it
not
quite...
the most Sia reminiscent haircut in the selection, but go on.
Indeed, we have bigger approaches of that.
Yeah.
I like the black and white theme because it was the only one doing it. I mean, it's nothing new at all. Like, we had that so many times, but it was the only one in the contest, I think. So then it already stands out again.
Sort of. With the Black Mamba, which we're going to be talking about later, they start in black and white, and then they
started. Okay, but she was fully doing it.
Exactly.
So so honestly, it doesn't have to win, in my opinion, but that's fine. If so, I think it will be jury very high and then televote in the middle, my prediction, and then it might sneak into the top. I think that might happen. We will see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think this is an example of a song that it definitely helps to know a little bit of what they're talking about to appreciate it. Por triz, as I understand, it kind of literally translates to buy a hair, on the Lyrics Translate website, they have it as by a whisker. So basically, it's a way of saying something that almost happened but didn't quite. And she's talking about how she had this beautiful romance that was almost perfect, but it was just slightly missed. So knowing that helps kind of get into the song a little bit more. So I understand again why this might not be reaching everybody. I do find it really, really beautiful. Not necessarily as emotional as Fabia's song, for example, but one that I really enjoy. And yeah, I wouldn't necessarily see this as being the choice, but it's definitely a deserved place in the final. And so now we touched upon the Black and White, which, of course, we've got to talk about the Black Mamba. Their song, they've got the other song here that is completely in English, and it's called
Love is on My Side.
All right, let's hear it.
I believe that love is on my side. Love is on my side.
So this song is bringing us really strong flavors of soul music, which is not necessarily the kind of music that we think about when it comes to Portugal. So Dominic, I'm curious about how you feel about this one.
Yeah, good point. So it's unusual for Portugal, not just because of the language, but also about the style. It kind of reminds me of Austria 2015. Make
Oh, really?
I Am Yours. Yeah, kind
Huh.
of in terms of the music. And I wrote down male Anastasia in terms of the voice because he's doing this
Ah.
like "Meow," which Anastasia is doing,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I like the progression, especially like in the end, there was a choir in the background, which I am always a fan of. So I appreciated that. Yeah, in general, it's nice being there. Like I can see the appeal to it. I don't see it winning, to be honest. But being in the final is already a great achievement for them. So yeah, good for them.
Yeah, and of those songs that were in the first semifinal, I had a very strong feeling that this one was going to advance. I do think that it does have a lot going for it, and as much as I agree with you in the sense that I don't see it winning, if it did, I think it could benefit from some of the things that NEEV benefits from, in the sense that it's in English, it's a message that's very easy to understand. It's got this really dreamy, high nostalgia instrumentation to it, with some orchestration as well, which I really, really, really love. At the same time, though, it also kind of suffers from those same things, in the sense that there is this debate about should Portugal send a song in English. But nonetheless, great entry, I would say. I'm going to be listening to this one well after the contest. I don't know. Would this be a song that you listen to?
Maybe once in a while if I'm feeling it, not in general.
Okay, fair enough. But nonetheless, one that I'm really enjoying, so I'm happy to see it. And now let's move on to another ballad that we've got here by Sara Afonso. Her song is called Contramão.
Se a estrada acabar, deixa estar, seguimos sem direção.
So we can always count on Portugal to have songs that are really kind of dreamy and elegant. Are you liking this one?
Yes, I do. It sounds like a track of a love movie. I was imagining like there's a couple walking around a park or something and fall in love, and then this is in the background. So I appreciate it just because of that. I like her voice. She comes across as shy, actually, like vulnerable. I'm not sure if that suits the lyrics. Maybe it does. Yeah, in general, I like it. I think it's not that memorable and might be lost. It depends on the running order, I think. So if it's like running place number 2 or 3, I don't see any chances for it. If it's in towards the end, I see some potential in it. So yeah.
I have to agree on a lot of things that you said, especially the fact that it does sound like something out of a movie. I would also say that that's kind of the case with Carolina's song. But this one, I think that one of the things about it that is really going to be a make or break for people is the minimalism, because it's quite slow. She sings very, very softly. Definitely one of the most understated songs as well. I know I kind of already said that about Fabia's song, but this is definitely understated in its own way. And I would say that when it comes to the music that I like and enjoy, I would love to watch this live, like with a full band, hearing her voice. So for that reason, and maybe it's not the choice for Eurovision, I would say, but it's beautiful. I definitely really like the elegance of it, and I'm happy to see that it has a place in the final. And finally, let's move on to our very last entry by Joana Alegre. Her song is called Joana do Mar.
Eu sei quem sou, por onde vou, o vento soprou e a vida cantou. Joana do Mar, Joana do Mar.
All right, so our last entry here, another solo female performer. Tell me how you feel about her song.
It is like a folk song, I would say. It reminded me of I know it's in Portuguese, but it reminded me of a Swedish or Norwegian folk song for some reason. I don't know.
Interesting.
I like the approach that it's more uplifting. I like her dress. Again, I like the metal blue. I like the fact that her name and the title of her name is the same, like Joana. I'm pretty sure that there's some kind of connection to it.
She's not speaking about another Joana. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, spoiler. Okay. Yeah, I like it. It's not my favorite by any means. So good that it's there. I was kind of surprised seeing it qualifying. But good for her. And I think she might come in the middle of the road. I don't see it coming last or something.
Mhm.
I would suggest maybe 5th or 6th in the overall selection. That's my prediction.
Yeah, I would say that one thing that's a bit of a consistent theme with the female performers that we have in the final is that a lot of them have these, slow, understated ballads, whereas hers is, it benefits from being more upbeat than the rest of them. So, that could actually help get her, up higher than one would expect. And, I take your point, not necessarily the kind of song that really wows people. My feelings are much like my feelings about Sara's song, which is that I would love to see this live. So for that reason, I don't really think it's the choice for Eurovision, but it's a nice song, one that I would really like to go to a festival of Portuguese music. It's really making me think that I think someday I should actually go to Festival da Canção, because it is one that I really like that much. If only it were just a little bit geographically closer to where I am.
I think it's the closest to you, isn't it?
I think Iceland is closer, actually, which is
okay.
one that I would consider going to that one as well. But
I join you.
Okay, well, would you join me for Festival da Canção as well?
Well, if I have the opportunity, why not? Sure.
All right. Well, we'll make a commitment to try and find our way there one day. Maybe not next year, but whenever it is our time to do so, and to appreciate music like this.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so we've come to the end of the selection after lots of discussion, lots of embarrassing ourselves with the language. Dominic, we have already kind of spoken about which ones we feel strongest about. If you had to choose one to win, which one would it be?
EU.CLIDES, to be honest, because the song is, in my opinion, the best one, and you should pick the best song, and he delivers it vocally. So yeah, I would be very happy about him.
I would be happy with him too. I do still feel pretty strongly about Karetus and Romeu. Saudade, it's just something that it's had an impact on me. It's a song that's been stuck in my head for a while. And I would say it's the furthest along in terms of having the full Eurovision package. Again, could probably use a little bit more energy, but it's almost there, and it would certainly be something that I think, despite the Portuguese-ness of it, if you want to coin that as a word, one that I think could be appreciated across borders. So, guys, that's what we think about the entries for this year's Festival da Canção. Which ones are your favorites? Which ones do you want to see winning the show in the end? Let us know in the comments. Let us know what you thought of our attempts at Portuguese. And we'll have lots more videos on the national selections that are coming to an end, but they're not quite over yet. Lots more videos on the internally selected songs, which we should be hearing tons of over the next few days. Let us know what you think. Follow us at our socials, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And you can also go to our website, Eurovoxx.tv, where you can find articles such as by certain people such as Dominic, who keep us updated on all things Eurovision. Until next time, we will see you and talk all about more Eurovision things. Take care.